Howdy folks, it's Age the Hunting Gear Guy. The factory Ruger bolt release is kind of a fiddly piece of crap. So when you pull the bolt back, you have to press on this blade right here to lock it back. Fantastic. It doesn't hold open on the last round or anything like that. Then after that, it doesn't want to go forward. You actually have to pull back on the bolt and press this thing in and then let go of the bolt to disengage it, which I think is kind of annoying. And apparently Ruger thought this was a good idea back in the day. I really struggle to understand what use case this would cover. Maybe if you wanted to keep the bolt open and a mag in and go around the bush and little bumps to the charging handle wouldn't make it go forward. But geez, that's, I don't really know. Anyways, there's an easy way to mod this thing so that it does go forward when you just pull the bolt back, which is a lot easier than trying to use two hands to try to let this thing forward. And we're going to do that. It's called the Autobolt mod, or the auto release on the bolt. And it's pretty easy to do if you have a Dremel and a screwdriver and a couple of other things. So let's get right to it. First thing, make sure your gun's empty. I have no mag. There is nothing in the chamber. Next, I'm going to take my 5/32 bit and I'm going to grab on right there to pull the action out of the stock. So I'm just loosening that off. Once it's fully loosened, move your safety to the middle position and then carefully take your stock and action out. Once the barreled action is out, you can take that 5/32 that you just had, poke in those two pins that hold the trigger group in. Notice I'm just pushing them in there, and then pull those out to remove your trigger group. Now be careful because there's a couple of pins in this trigger group that are quite loose and might fall out on you. So try not to put it on its side and wiggle it or anything, or they might just come out. All right, now to disassemble this thing, we need to get that the bolt hold open blade out. And to do that, we have a couple of pins that we're going to need to take out. This is your ejector here. There's a little spring right there. You see that on that pin? I'm just showing that to you so that when we put it back together, you'll know where that needs to go. So first things first, I'm just going to start pressing that pin out. And now I can kind of hold that spring down and just pull the pin out. There's the spring, and there's my ejector. So I can put those guys off to the side. Next up, I need to push out this pin at the bottom. And it doesn't really matter which direction it goes out. I'm just going to push it out from this direction here. You can see it's coming out. Now it's out. Now that plate there can kind of scooch out the top. So I'm just going to carefully pull it out just like that. Don't need to do anything else. It's ready to go. Now what I need to do is, see this this dip down here. I need to basically round that off. So if you've got a nail or a scribe or something like that, this is where you'll want to mark it to give it a nice rounded shape along the top here. So I'm going to go get my Dremel and we're going to go do this together. So I've got my bolt release. I've got a high-speed bit on here. I'm also going to use a stone after this. I've just got a little bit of water here in my sink just to cool off the part if it gets too hot. So let's get cutting. That's the correct basic shape. I need a little bit of a curve in there, but I'm going to do that with my sander. All right, I got my stone on, and now I'm ready to do the rest. And that's it. And one thing that's optional, if you ground it and you can feel a little bit of an edge there, you want to just sand it or just file it just to get that edge off. I noticed there's just a little bit of an edge there. That's pretty much it. Doesn't really take much. Good to go. Got to reinstall your bolt release. First of all, if you accidentally got your magazine release out, this button here needs to go in there. Push down on it and wiggle it until it goes fully in. Then take your magazine release, and it kind of goes in like that. And just push it in there and wiggle until it's in. Now at this point, you might want to put the pin in from the other side just to hold your magazine release in so it doesn't loosen. So I like to just kind of move it until I can see through that hole, and then push it in from the other side. Now the important part when you get this pin is to make sure you don't push it too far. I don't want it actually showing on the other side because that's where the bolt release needs to go. So you're going to back it up just a little bit, just like that. In terms of this spring here, you can see it's got kind of two legs. I need to make sure that they're all the way back and out of the way because I'm going to use them later. I'm going to take my bolt release. It's going to go down like this, and I'm just going to look into that slot, and I'm just going to fire it right in there. Oh, my pin got in the way again. There we go. And next I need that slot here to line up with the hole so that I can push the pin through. There it goes. So I've got that pin in. Next up, I need to get this spring on top of my bolt release. And then I can use my other pin here. So what I'm going to do is push this spring down past the pinhole, push in from the other side, and that'll just hold that one. Then I can take my ejector. I can put my ejector onto the pin, and then I can push the pin the rest of the way through. I might need to wiggle the bolt release to get it in there, but that's it. It's not as bad as it looks. I got to reinstall. I'm going to make sure that that ejector is in its little recess there. This can be easier just doing with the rifle pointed up. And I'm just going to kind of pop it in there so that it's in place. And I'm just going to pop those pins in when I can see that the holes are fully aligned. They're going to be a little bit loose in there. That's okay. And I can see that those pins are both in, and none of my other trigger pins have moved, so I'm ready to put this back into the stock. Now I can carefully put it back into the stock. I'm just going to go ahead and pop it in there. Get my 5/30 seconds and torque it down. And what we've done is make this thing an Autobolt. So now I can pull it back, I can let go, and that still works. But if I pull back on this guy, it's just ready to go. So very easy to use now. No two-hand required to unlock the bolt. Just nice and easy. And that's really the way that these should be done these days. If you look at the Ruger PC Carbine, that's how they just operate from the factory. So I'd like to see Ruger doing this with their triggers, just because I don't really see a lot of need to locking the bolt open. And I really do like this slingshot method of dropping the bolt. Thanks for watching.